Welcome to a Nothing from Nothing production. Hello, everybody. This is Mark Christopher with Bill Turley, and this is the Junction Podcast, a podcast about growing up in Brooklyn in the 1970s and 80s. We're hoping to protect the names of the innocent as well as the extremely guilty, and there were plenty of those. Well, here goes.
Going to the chapel and we're gonna get married. Going to the chapel and we're gonna get married. Gee, I really love you and we're gonna get married. Going to the chapel of love.
Welcome back to the Brooklyn Junction and today's special episode about Brooklyn weddings. Brooklyn weddings, and we have our good friend Bill. Anything new, Bill?
We're on the verge of the congestion pricing era here in New York City. It's going to cost you money to come in below 60th Street, and that's going to have a huge impact on what they used to call the bridge and tunnel crowd, right, Mark?
Yes, I was more the subway walking crowd. So, Bill, I heard that you did that aging software they have on TikTok, right? Did you do that aging software? Didn't you do that? See what you'd look like older?
I know what I look like older.
You did it, and they said, hey, no, we're good. You're fine.
No, that's all right. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Bill, so why don't you take us through our experience of weddings in Brooklyn, which should be a pretty rich stop.
Yeah. So, Mark, do you remember what your wedding song was?
Yes, I remember it was Push Push in the Bush, which
all
was
right.
a
Here we go.
Push, push in the bush. You know I like to dance. Push, push in the bush. How about if we could dance? Push, push in the bush. You know I want to get down.
I think it's kind of a dated song now. I mean, obviously, because I think that bushes are a thing of the past, as is yellow teeth for that matter. These kids just don't know how good they have it. But my wedding song was I Only Have Eyes for You, which I heard Miley Cyrus, I think, sing once. But back then it was the original Flamingos version with all the cool doo-wops and stuff. Just love the song.
My love must be a kind of blind love. I can't see anyone but you. Are the stars out tonight? I don't know if it's cloudy or bright. I only have eyes
So and where was your wedding reception?
The Holiday Inn in Hop Hog, right off the Long Island Expressway. It was a great wedding, but it was nice. It was nice. It's just now that I've been to all these millennial weddings, my daughter got married in a chateau at France.
Yeah.
And, now that I've been exposed to everybody else's wedding, I said, wow, I think we spent like $11,000 and got 14,000 back, know, and I don't know why I know that number, but
Nice. Very nice. Yeah. So I may have told you this before, but my wife and I met on, Elaine and I met on Fire Island in the summer of 1988, and we thought it would be a cool idea to have our wedding on Fire Island and do the ceremony on the beach. Talked about it and kicked it around. And then I had this thought of, my 90-year-old something Aunt Tessie on the sand in her orthopedic shoes. And I was like, we'll have to do it at a catering hall. And we wound up going to what was then called the Harbor House in Bayshore, right at the ferry landing. It's now some like faux Irish pub, like, Molly McDrunkards or something like that. I don't know what it is, but back then it was Harbor House.
Oh, I've been there. I've been there. Molly
Yeah.
McDruckards. I have my own designated parking space in
Yeah.
front, They know how to treat a 20, I'm telling you. They know how to treat a 20. You walk in with 20, you walk out drunk. Good one, Johnny.
But today we're going to talk about Brooklyn weddings. We have a very special guest from Chicago, the city with the big shoulders, my brother John, who's got a very keen insight into the topic of Brooklyn weddings, and we're going to learn about this very shortly. Weddings in Brooklyn, we're all Brooklyn natives here, has a real uniqueness. As an altar boy, I probably witnessed scores of weddings. John, how about you?
Oh yeah, same thing.
And the great thing about it was you always got tipped by the best man, right?
But just for sitting around in that little outfit ringing the bells, you got tipped?
Yeah, the best man always, greased us at the end of the ceremony.
There was a big competition to get those assignments because of the tips that were involved.
And that was nice. And it would be anywhere from, and back then that was quite a bit of money for a little kid, And you split it with your partner because there were always two older boys.
Well, when I went to Nazareth, as a part-time job, my buddy Joe Farina got me a job with one of the catering halls, and very hard work. We worked very long hours. We not only served the food, but we also bussed the tables, so it was really, really busy. I want to tell you one story. There was
Sure.
an Italian catering hall that during the week they would host Hasidic weddings. On the weekend, it was practically, well, I would say all Italian weddings, but during the week, in the middle of the week, typically a Wednesday night, there would be Hasidic weddings. The one story I have to tell is that we were setting up the dining room for this Hasidic wedding, and there's a strict separation between males and females. And the Jewish caterer had brought in screens. So the screens were close to, they were about maybe 5 feet high. And, he had them, they had to go right down the middle of the dining room to strictly separate men from women. So it got to the point where the screens came to the dais, or as some of the Italians would say, the dais, but there was a big step. So they couldn't bring the screens up any further. And the rabbi was proposing that they hook a wire to the last screen and that they would extend the wire over this huge step, and then he would attach it to the mirrors that were behind where the wedding party, the main table for the wedding party. Well, you got to picture these mirrors. They were probably about 20 feet across, and they were 10 feet top to bottom. So they were huge. So the rabbi proceeds to find, I guess, a coat hanger or something, and he's out there trying to rig this thing so that there's a wire attached to the screen, and then with the coat hanger, he's going to hook it onto the back, to the front of the mirror. Well, at this point, the maitre d', whose name was Freddie, comes racing out, and he says, "What the fuck are you doing?" Well, the rabbi looks at him and he says, "Well, the men and the women, they got to be strict."
Are you out of your fucking goddamn
culture,
mind? What the fuck?
Yes, exactly. So
the women.
Freddie says to him, he says, I don't give a fuck what you do. You ain't going to hang no fucking wire on that mirror. Understand what I'm saying? So the rabbi keeps insisting. So Freddie says to him, he says, look, he says, I want $10,000 up front so that in the event that you damage or you break that fucking mirror, you're going to pay. This is a cultural clash in Brooklyn of mammoth proportions. And it all reverts to the street where it's like, you ain't going to do that on my territory. Oh, yes, I am. No, you're not. Yes, I am. No, you're not. So this goes on. So I think the way it was settled, I don't really quite remember exactly, but there were no curtains going up. There was no wire and there was no $10,000 fronted. But the point was that they brought it to a rapid decision and it was closed out. End of story. No wire.
Well, it's funny. It's like I could just imagine the rabbi going, "All right, we could give you the $10,000. Somebody
Well,
call
that was,
Moishe.
yes,
Moishe."
I don't know.
And
That
he
was being
comes.
discussed in Yiddish, but yes, I think that was going on. That the Italians, they overruled everything. It was like, no, that ain't gonna happen. Yeah, I'm going to tell you a couple of. I have two gems that I think will be entertaining, but I'm going to tell you four really quick ones that all have. They're all in common. So what I have seen at these different catering halls, there was one situation where for some reason this very pregnant woman gets up on the floor and she's dancing, as if she's not pregnant. Well, long as she slips and she falls on her back and oh my God, everybody is going crazy. So her husband, who earlier in the night I learned that he was a New York City policeman, he gets up on the floor. They run over to the wife and he screams, I'm going to own this fucking joint by the time I'm finished. I'll own this fucking joint. You ain't heard the last of me. So there was that situation, which it was a classic. Oh
Oh
yeah,
my
she
God,
was
yeah.
fine. She was fine. Nothing happened. She just was more embarrassed than anything else. But I still picture her going down on the floor. The whole place, everybody gets up from their chairs and rushes. I think is complete pandemonium. The other one I wanted to tell you about is that, for some reason, they had people that were kind of crude and rude a lot of times. So I remember I was serving salad, which was drenched in Italian dressing, very heavy on the olive oil. So there was some woman, I don't know, she dissed me, shall we say. And I'm passing these plates. I'm at the head of the table, and the tables are pretty close together, but I'm passing plates with the salad with heavy uh, Italian dressing on it. So she had like what I would call an iridescent kind of a green gown. I remember this very well, but she
Oh
was pretty
shit.
nasty. And for some reason, as I'm passing the plates down there, somebody bumps into me. And lo and behold, the salad and the oil go
What did
right
she
in
say?
her
Did she
lap.
start screaming at you?
And it was like, it was like poetic justice because, this is the woman that's insulting me. And I swear I didn't do it deliberately, but it happened.
Hey, you poured all sorts of hot coffee on my wife, Vicky. What are you doing? What are you doing?
That used to happen very, very regularly. The other one was I was passing very hot coffee and same thing happens. Someone bumps my arm as the coffee is being passed and a whole cup of coffee goes down the back of this woman. Well, I'm not, it's not funny, but I mean, it was scalding hot coffee. In all these instances, what happened, I got so embarrassed and, being a good Catholic from Nazareth, I felt guilty. So I remember I went down to see the owner and I told him about what happened. And he says, John, that's the reason why this place is insured. I never forgot that though, but it was a good lesson. But I think they had to have a lot of insurance based on the clientele at these different places. The other story I want to tell you is that, I would go in the back in the kitchen, and you'd be serving food and everything like that. But what I always thought was funny, they had these huge vats of either soup or spaghetti sauce, huge, 30 gallon back there. They would light their cigarettes over the vats of sauce and put their matches out by just dropping them into the sauce.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and then the cigarette ash would go in as well.
Boys and girls, be kind to your servers. That's why, I think about that sometimes when I'm out to eat. I'm like, the guy wanted to wrap this chicken cutlet on his dick. And then cook it up. He could, it's like,
You anticipated my next story, which is, well, that's okay. We're on the same frequency. So that was pretty common at all the places I worked. It was like, oh my God, make sure you wash your hands and hope to God that the cooks are washing their hands. Anyway, here's one story which is in alignment with what you just said. One time there was a guy who was a guest, and he was very fussy, very particular. My friend was one of my fellow waiters was waiting on him, and the guy says to him, he says, "Hey, did you wash your hands?" So the waiter says, "Well, yeah, my hands are clean." So he says, "Well, how do I know you just didn't jerk off in the men's room and just came out here?" So waiter looks at him like, Jesus Christ, what the hell are you talking about? Why would I do something like that? So anyway, so this is the guy. So we had for the first course, we were serving half a cantaloupe that was filled with what they called fruit compote, which was oranges, grapefruit, pineapple, that you scooped out the center of the cantaloupe and put this fruit in there. So the guy starts eating the fruit, calls the waiter. This is the same guy about the, jerking off. He calls the waiter over and says, "Hey, this is terrible. This stuff is the worst I've ever eaten. This stuff is, so this the waiter was pretty much fed up with this guy. So he says, "Okay, all right, I'll take it back." So he takes it back and he comes into the kitchen and he says, "This fucking guy, what an asshole," on and on and on. So he goes, "You don't like the cantaloupe, you don't like the fruit. I'll show you what." So he cuts a fresh cantaloupe, scoops it out, opens up his zipper and puts his penis into the cantaloupe, squishes it, and he takes
Oh my
fruit
God.
and uses it accordingly, We'll see if this guy likes this one this time. So we all witnessed this. And you have to picture there's these swinging doors that are between the kitchen and the dining room. And you have these little windows where you can look out, but there's not a lot of room. You can't see very much. So all of the waiters are all crunched together looking out these two windows as the new cantaloupe is served to this gentleman. We are beyond ourselves watching this whole thing go on. On top of that, he says, "Oh, this is much better. It tastes much better." And the way he's serving, he says, "Oh, so happy to please you. This is wonderful. I'm so happy." I think he even tipped him. I don't know.
Yeah, he tips in too. Yeah, yeah. So, and as always, in keeping with the policy of our program, the names have been changed to protect the innocent and the extremely guilty. Right,
Yeah.
Mark?
I read that. It's so funny. You should always treat everybody as nice as you can, but definitely people that's serving you food.
One thing I want to mention too is that Italian weddings always had some form of opera music. So what was one of the classics was they always used the processional aria from Aida, dun, 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 dun. So that was played at every So they were either bringing in champagne or they were introducing the bridal party, but that was a staple. Always, something from Verdi. Here's my story. Um, I was working at a wedding, and we had the cocktail hour. And I remember this. There was a stunning, stunning Italian girl, and she was in a silver lame dress, short, um, you know, real heavily into, but her whole figure, she was a classic Italian beauty. Facially, she was Claudia Cardinale, um, Sophia Loren, just a gorgeous, unbelievably gorgeous girl. And you couldn't help but notice it. So at the cocktail hour, she is accompanied by this guy. I'm going to call him Bruno. I don't know what his
Hey, how you
actual
doing,
name was, but
Bruno?
I want to give you that image of him. Built like a fire plug. Kind of an ugly guy, straight out of Goodfellas. He could have been, on the Corleone property as a guard, but that a person from deep in Brooklyn. So this guy is very, very self-conscious, very nervous about his date. Anybody that walks by, if you dared to look at this beautiful, outstanding woman, he was going to rip your throat out. He was that insecure. So, this goes on during the cocktail hour, and all the waiters just say, "Hey, did you see that Bellezza girl upstairs? Oh, yeah, isn't she stunning? She's out of this world," And again, it's not because you're being a voyeur or you're being creepy. It's just this was a beautiful woman. So the guy continues to stare down anybody that looks, and in some cases, he'll make an aggressive step towards someone that's admiring her. But so during the cocktail hour, this is going on. So we proceed into the dining room, and they're going to serve the food family style, where we've got huge platters of pasta and various meats, but we're going to come out with huge platters that are going to be placed on the table. Let's say we have about 10 people per table, and again, about 200 people in the room. So there's a friend of mine straight out of Italy named Vito, really good waiter, and kind of a horny guy, I will say. And he's noticing this woman, and he makes eye contact with Bruno. In Italian they call them gaffoons. The real crude type of person, and this is who this guy is. So he stares back at Vito and menace. The wedding goes on, and Vito brings out a platter of macaroni or uh, ziti, okay, masticholi. So he has the platter in his right hand, and he goes to the table with Bruno and the beautiful girl. And as he's putting the platter onto the middle of the table, his eyes stray towards the beautiful girl's bosom. And that was Vito. But you have to picture this as one motion, that he's a sweeping motion where he's putting the platter down. His eyes are slightly to the left to admire her beauty. Well, he no sooner does that than Bruno grabs him by the throat, pulls him onto the table, and the table collapses with the weight, because Bruno is on top of the table, also wailing on Vito. So macaroni's flying, sauce is flying, there's all kinds of, chaos ensues, and everybody who hated anybody proceeds to fight with them. So I reach in, grab I grab Vito, and I pull him away out of his grip. But the fight continues. So the next thing you know, each side, let's say it's the groom's side and the wife's side, they all start fighting with each other. And it was like, then somebody yells out, the waiters started all this. Kill the waiters. Yeah. With, I'll mention another name, Phil Kozlowski. He was another famous graduate of Nazareth. We look at each other and we say, uh-huh, uh-huh. And both of us proceed to go behind the bar, big, huge, a regular bar of the restaurant. And, we're kind of like ducking down, like when you see these classic movies where bottles are flying and glass, you ducking, underneath the bar as stuff is smashing. So this goes on for quite a while. Men are on the floor wrestling with each other. You know, you can still hear "kill the way." I don't know. Yeah, it was just horrible because it was just, you talk about ruining something. So thing goes on. So I see the owner of the place. He goes behind the bar and there's a telephone there, rotary dial. He picks up the phone, dials a number, and goes back. So within a few minutes, all of these cars pull up to the restaurant. Guys get out. They're all dressed the same. They're in black suits with skinny black ties, sunglasses, and fedoras. I am not kidding you. I am not making this up. There was about 15 of them. They all filter into the restaurant, go down to the catering room, and they start banging heads. They wade into the crowd. They grab guys. If they have to rough them up, they do. Bruno gets a couple of shots to the face. Is really humbled. So they break everything up, and then they form a circle with their hands in front of them, and they got like the "don't fuck with me" attitude. And I want you to picture this again. Guys in sunglasses, short brimmed fedoras, black suits, black ties. You can't tell one from the other. So the leader gets up to the microphone and says, "Okay, you all, the fight's over. Now you got a choice. You can either leave and be polite and we can let you go, or, if you want to fight, we're here to help you out. Your choice." He says, "Oh, by the way, there's a third choice. We can continue the wedding, but you all got to sit there and be like ladies and gentlemen." All right. So then the maitre d', who was, his name was John. He was a very polite, very classy guy. He gets up on the microphone and he says, "Okay, now that all this chaos is over," he says, "I think it's best that you decide. If you want to leave, please leave. But if you want to continue the wedding," he says, "we need your help to put everything back together. And then, we're ready to start the next course." So, that remains in my mind as the classic end to or middle of an Italian wedding. I think the whole thing ended up pretty well. And, if I'm not, I wouldn't be surprised. There probably was a priest there, who gave the final blessing.
So funny. Thanks, John. That'll wrap it up for this episode of the Brooklyn Junction Brooklyn Weddings. Bill, take us out.
Yes, thanks for joining us today and listening to our stories about Brooklyn weddings. Fun it was and bordered on life-threatening at certain times. John, thanks for joining us. Remember to like and subscribe
To the Brooklyn Junction. Now, what episode can end without playing the song that gets played at the end of every gosh darn wedding? Donna Summer, really take us out.
So let's stay